Good evening, everyone. How you all doing tonight? Good. Okay, it's a nice weather outside. There's a full moon, and everything looks nice. So, do you guys ever wonder, like, whenever you look at the moon and stars, like, what might be behind those stars or galaxies? Do you guys ever wonder about this? Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, humans have always been curious about the astronomy and all those stars, galaxies. So this is why they started creating all these technologies, which in general we refer as space technologies. So tonight, I, Anuj, and my teammates Birendra, Hassan, Pukar, and Kashif, we're going to talk about the space technologies in the past and the current state. So let's get started.
Thank you, Anuj. Good evening, everyone. I am going to talk about history of space technologies. Because of time constraint, I am not going to detail about the history of space technology. I want just go through the invention of telescope. The invention of telescope was invented by Galileo Galilei in 1609. Later, in early 1600, German astronomer Johannes Kepler was formally addressed the laws of planetary motion. After that, 1686, Sir Isaac Newton described the laws of motion. In 1930, one of the greatest breakthrough was made by inventing first liquid propellant rocket. That rocket was invented by three scientists: one Robert H. Goddard of US, Hermann Oberth of Germany, and Russian teacher Konstantin E. Shiloskovsky of Russian. On October 1957, Sputnik 1 was the first unmanned space satellite which was sent by Soviet Union. After that, in 1957, Soviet Union again sent the first dog in the space, like you can see in the picture. On October 1, 1958, National Aeronautics Space Administration was formally established by United States for the space exploration. In 1959, Luna 1 launched by Soviet Union to reach the moon's orbit. Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin was the first man who traveled in the space on April 12, 1961. Later on, 1962, NASA sent the Telstar, which was first active communication satellite, including TV broadcast systems. President John F. Kennedy delivered the speech on September 12, 1962, to encourage the scientists of NASA to discover or invent new technologies about the space exploration. He said, America should attempt to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. In 1963, Soviet cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova was the first woman who would travel in the space. Finally, Neil Armstrong of United States was the first person who set his foot on the lunar surface on July 20, 1969. Later on, June 7, 1971, Salyut 1 was the first manned orbiting space station which was launched by Soviet Union. There are the other space stations who launched by United States and Soviet Union. In 1995, Soviet cosmonaut Valery Polyakov spent 438 days in space abroad in Russian space station Mir. NASA invented the number of space shuttle. On April 12, 1981, Columbia Space Shuttle was the first space shuttle launched by NASA in the space. It had completed more than 28 space missions. Unfortunately, Columbia Space Shuttle crashed on February 1, 2003 and killed all 7 crew members while it was returning back on the Earth after completing its missions. The next part will be continued by Pukar.
Good evening, everybody. I'll be covering the topic technology used by astronauts during space mission. And first of all, I'll go with space suits. Like it is a protective cloth to work in the space environment, and it consists of 11 layers of material, which includes orthofabric, aluminum, myra, etc. And the weight of the spacesuits depends upon the different mission. Like Apollo suit was 180 pounds, whereas shuttle suit was 310 pounds. And the water and oxygen are in the backpack of the astronaut suit, and it lasts for 7.5 hours to complete its mission. And for the emergency purpose, they have 30-minute backup. Let's go to how they communicate in the space. Mostly their signal sends through satellite through which they communicate. And in case of a space shuttle, the orbiter has 2 systems of communicating with the ground, like S-band and Ku-band. And astronauts during spacewalk communicate with the orbiter through mechanism installed in the spacesuit. They are also trying laser communication because it helps to communicate across the interplanetary distances, measure the movement of planets, and test fundamental principles of physics. There was some success in exchange of laser signals between Earth and space. Like in 1992, the laser pulses were successfully transmitted to Galileo probe, but it was single transmission, as Galileo probe does not have transmitter in it. They are also trying like broadband in space. It is similar to moving from dial-up internet connection to broadband, and it will enable the data transmission rate that is 10 to 1,000 times higher than the traditional radio waves. And future mission like of NASA was sending Mars telecommunication orbiter spacecraft in 2010, but due to budgetary problem it was postponed. If it was sent, then laser transmission will be like 1 to 30 million bits per second. At present, the laser transmission between Earth and Mars is only about 120,000 bits per second. Like they track themselves in the space, like in the Earth using GPS, and in like they have also function like multifunctional electronic display system in space shuttle. It is like you can see in the figure. It is like a cockpit for the astronauts, and they can measure attitude, altitude, and speed. And let's move to spacewalk. You can see the figure that astronaut Ed White was the first American to perform the spacewalk, and it is activity performed outside the spacecraft in the space. And why we need a spacewalk? Like to install the lab on the International Space Station, for maintenance, to the new research. And for the spacewalk, the astronauts need external force, and it will be done like by unit called handheld maneuvering unit or manned maneuvering unit. And this system uses compressed nitrogen so that it pushes astronauts forward. And like the major benefit is that astronauts can move in space without being attached with the spacecraft. And these are some of the history of the spacewalk done in the different time period. Now I'll hand over to Hassan.
Hello everyone. I'm going to talk about different technology used in space, it's a lot, but I'm just going to mention the major things. Space shuttle, which is called officially the transportation system. The first space shuttle took off into space called Columbia in 1981. A typical space shuttle mission takes around 8 days, but it can be extended based on the mission objectives. The space shuttle, as you see, it consists of 3 major parts. 2 solid rocket boosters, which is vital for the launch. External fuel tank, which is at the middle, which is also carries fuel for the launch. Also orbiter, which is at the middle one, which is carries astronauts and payload. Actually, space shuttle take off just like a rocket and land just like regular airplane. This is the pictures for the orbiter in the orbit. Another technology, it's lunar rover, which is an electronic space vehicle designed to operate in a low gravity vacuum, just like the moon. It's more effective because its astronauts could use less oxygen, fewer and physical energy than walking, walking in the moon. Another technology, Mars rover, as you say, which is more sophisticated technology, and there is actually 5 rovers were sent to Mars. Only 2 has succeeded, and the rest failed. The 2 succeeded launch in 2004 and still running over there. Another technology is Hubble Space Telescope. It's launched in 1990 by NASA, and this technology actually has changed the way science look at the universe, because it's provide more details. It's turned more some prediction to certainty, because for instance, it revealed the age of the universe to be about 13 to 14 billions instead of the old range, which is 10 to 20 billions year. Now, why this technology is very significant achievement, or how does it differ from the regular telescope in the ground? Actually, it is a direct solution for the atmosphere problem, which is the view from the ground actually get distorted in Earth atmosphere. So actually, distortion leads to see the like the stars shining, and that's because of the atmosphere problems. There is interesting fact that I found about Hubble also, that's every 90 minutes Hubble completes a spin around the Earth, which is fast enough to travel across the United States in just 10 minutes. This is some pictures that has been taken by Hubble's telescope. The last technology that I'm going to talk about is satellite. I guess that everyone knows about satellite and how major it is have impact in our communication life. This is actually the basic communication satellite components. Ground station transmit to the satellites and then back to the Earth. This pictures shows, I don't know if you can see it clearly here because of the light, but there is a lot of white spot around the Earth. And all of these white spots, it represent satellites. From launching the first satellite in 1957 and up to 2008, this year, around 6,000 satellites have been launched into orbit. This is estimated that only 800 satellites are working. So actually the rest all of them is just junk in the sky, in the orbit. This is my part, and then
hello everybody. I'll be talking a little bit about some of the missions sent to different planets. So I'll start with Mars. Mars is the 4th planet from Sun, and it's the 7th largest. The first successful mission that was sent by NASA to Mars was Mariner 4 in 1965. And the first successful object that hit the surface was a Soviet probe called Mars 2 and Mars 3. And it was launched in 1971. But they lost the contact as soon as they, from the base as soon as they were landed. The current mission includes NASA Phoenix lander that is about to launch, that has been launched, but that is scheduled to set down on northern plains on 25th of May 2008. Here are some pictures for Mariner 4 and Phoenix lander. The second one is Mercury. It's the closest planet to Sun, and it's the 8th largest. And the first mission that was sent to Mercury was Mariner 10 in November 3, 1973, and it arrived Mercury on March 29, 1974. The second mission was Messenger, that is also known as Mercury Surface Space Environment, Geochemistry and Ranging. It was a NASA spacecraft, and it was launched on August 3, 2004 to study the characteristics and environment of Mercury from orbit. Here are some of the pictures. Now, Venus is also known as Jewel of the Sky. It was previously known by some of the ancient astronomers as Morning and Evening Star. The first spacecraft that was sent was Mariner 2 in 1962. And the first orbiter, the US spacecraft Magellan, produced detailed maps of Venus using the radar. And ESA's Venus Express is now in orbit with a large variety of instruments. Here are the pictures for Magellan and Mariner. Comets are small, thin, irregularly shaped bodies composed of a mixture of non-volatile grains and frozen gases. The most known of all comets is Halley, that was named after a British astronomer Edmund Halley, who predicted that comet visit Earth every 76 years, and the last time it was seen was in 1986, but it was not visible with the naked eye. So that's all from my part. Now I'll send it over to Anuj. Here are some of the pictures of comets. Thanks.
All right. Space technology is definitely changing right now. Until recently, traveling beyond the Earth was unimaginable for the regular people like us. So the closest people could get to was probably through the pictures or maybe movies. But traveling to space now is no longer just a dream. If you have money, you can do it. So Dennis Tito was the American multimillionaire, and he was the first fee-paying tourist. And he was taken to International Space Station for a week, and he paid $20 million for it. So after Dennis Tito, there were 4 other people who already went there. I mean, actually, all of them were very rich, who could afford $20 million, you know. So, but after the Columbia disaster, Soyuz vehicles were the only one that could transfer all the goods to the International Space Stations. That's why Soyuz they have stopped taking tourists to the International Space Stations until October 2008. So $20 million is a big amount. So that's why the private companies around the world, they have been trying to come up with some cost-effective plan. And so far, Virgin Galactic, which is the parent company, is a Virgin Atlantic Airways, and they have come up with the idea to build a spaceship so that they can use it as a space tour in a space to transfer the space tourists. They have already successfully completed Spaceship 1 and now in the phase of Spaceship 2, which will carry 6 people at a time and for the cost of $200,000. So I have this video which will show the Spaceship 2, and I took it from YouTube. Okay, moving on. Everyone knows Google, right? It's an internet giant, and they are also now thinking outside of Earth, just like us, you know. They have partnered with NASA, and now they are developing interactive map of Mars. And just like, have you guys used Google Earth? Yeah, just like Google Earth, you can zoom. That's a picture of Mars, and you can just zoom and look at any certain points you want to look at. So it should be done pretty fast, but Google is not planning to just stop over there. In the future, they are planning to provide a real-time weather visualization and forecasting of space, high-resolution 3D maps of moon, real-time tracking of the International Space Stations and shuttles. All these things, you'll be able to do it from your home. It's for free for general public like us. So also, US President Bush announced there'll be a manned mission very soon, and no later than 2008. So this manned mission will be for permanent, like they're going to develop a permanent base over there. So by 2020, there'll be a base, and then they'll use that base to go send manned mission to Mars. So that'll be our end of our presentation. And to conclude, our space technologies have come a long way. And due to our curiosity, we have developed such a sophisticated technologies. And now with Google's and company like Virgin Galactic, we should definitely be optimistic about it. We'll be getting more information of our universe, and we should definitely be optimistic about it. So if you have any questions, these are our references.
Very good. Any questions? Space. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
One of them, what kind of energy or fuel that these space equipment or go years after years after years? What's...
You mean for the...
They put gas in it or what?
No, which one are you talking about?
Anyone that goes for 5 years or 10 years or something, that goes in the outer space.
The one with, I was just talking about the Virgin Galactic. They have a rocket booster system with the, what was it? Yeah.
So after it goes in the outer space, what keeps it going?
It's going to be, they're going to stay there for just for 6 minutes, right? So.
No, I'm talking about the missions, NASA missions. It goes running for a year or 2 years in the outer space. Okay. Is it solar?
No, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That's what it's trying.
Yeah, but basically nitrogen. That's what they've been using, right? So
for now.
Yeah.
No solar energy.
For satellite.
For this. Yeah.
For satellite solar.
They use it to keep it running for.
To give the micro.
Actually, satellite they use it main sources for energy, because to keep it for a long
so
time.
So it must be in the sunlight all the time, so that it.
Right. There is actually temporary fuel, with just when the satellite just behind the Earth.
So you have
just like that.
a battery.
But the rest of them work on the solar.
Very good. Another question. When Hubble's telescope or any other machine equipment takes pictures, thousands, millions of miles, how does it come here to NASA? I mean, the Earth is going around and they are moving. How they shoot and come back? Did you read anything about that?
Actually, the system, they have that system that's just transfer this. I mean, just like the satellite. I mean, how do we get the communication Yeah, and a GPS system and these stuff things.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you.